Well, this week we have the pleasure of being joined by softball head coach Tracy Adix Zins. Hey, Tracy, thank you so much for joining us here on the Blue Demon Download.
Thank you for having me.
So take us through what this past year has been like for your program. Last year, in the middle of the season, your season comes to a conclusion. This year, you're able to play somewhat of a full season, but every week you don't know where you're playing or what your opponents are going to be. Just what has this been like for your program these past 14 or so months?
I mean, it's been a lot. I always put the credit to our team. I think they did an amazing job of having to go through all the protocols, having to go through shutdowns, having to go through quarantines. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, that's really the only way to describe it. I think we were all just super thankful that we could play as many games as we did. We would have liked to have finished up better, but to win regular season going through a COVID season, I think is almost harder than winning it in one weekend. So they just really kept adapting to the new rules that we would have to put in place. Obviously, if we ran into any issues, we might have to do more testing. They just did a fantastic job of doing whatever we needed. And I think a lot of them, since we were a senior heavy team, just realized it could be taken away at any moment. So we're going to take what we have and we're going to run with it for when we do get to play.
And what did it mean for your program to I know it didn't end the way you wanted it, but you win the Big East regular season, you qualify for the conference tournament, so you get postseason play. Just what did it mean for your team to get to play a season again?
They were excited. I mean, obviously our freshmen never got to finish out their high school careers. Some didn't even get to play summer ball. Others for our seniors, we had 3 that returned from the 2020 class. So it meant a lot to them. I mean, just to be able to get back out there with their teams, with their team and play as much softball as they could. It was a lot for them. I mean, I think a lot of people, this changed their view on just athletics in general, of take advantage of every opportunity that you're given. And when you get the chance to play your heart out.
You had a couple seniors, as you mentioned, return. So I think it was 8 total seniors combined for this year's team. How important was it for them to get that full season to conclude their college careers?
It was a lot. We actually have 4 coming back next year. So we graduate 4. Obviously, our 3 returners from last year, they are done. And then we have 1 that was a true senior, will be done. She's graduating this year and moving on to adult life. It was a lot for them. I mean, I think because we were such a senior heavy team, and having them know exactly what it felt like to get the season taken away from you. Some of them have had it taken away because of injury, which is different, but I think they just all really valued being able to be back there and compete their hearts out to hopefully get us back to the tournament.
You had 7 freshmen on this year's team. How important was it for them? Especially, you mentioned a lot of them didn't get to finish their high school careers. How valuable was it for them to get to play at the college level for the first time?
I think it was important. I know for a lot of them, it didn't go the way they wanted it. I mean, we had some kids that were recruited to replace seniors that ended up coming back. And I think that's going to be the biggest issue going forward is what are your recruiting classes like? What do they look like out years and who's going to be coming back and how that's going to impact. So I know a lot of our freshmen didn't get a lot of opportunity that they would wanted. I talked to them too. I said, we had 36 games. Normally we have a 56 game season. So it's even harder because our job's to win games. Our job's to put the best out there that we can to win that game that day. So we're even 20 games short of what we want to be. So there wasn't a whole lot of room for a lot of opportunity, but I think for them to still be in the system, to still learn. I know I'll throw Riley out there. I know Riley really enjoyed learning from Jess. Riley is one of our catchers. She did get a lot of pinch hit opportunities. And I think she just started to kind of get that feel of what it's going to be like going in the next years because she's going to move into that catching position.
What about the incoming class? Do you have, it sounds like maybe a smaller class coming in? How did you navigate the recruiting knowing so many seniors were returning?
Smaller class. So we actually had our 2021 class done really before COVID hit. So we knew that we would be replacing only what we thought would be 4. Then it ended up being 8 potentially. I think for us, it's more going to impact like our 22 class, our 23 class, because once we put in the new recruiting rules, people weren't recruiting out so far, especially for a mid-major like us. Now your SECs, your Power Fives, they still had recruits that were 2 years ago, they were recruiting 2022s or 2023s. So for us, it's going to be a little bit different. We're just going to kind of have to wait and see. I mean, that's the hard part is we do know what some kids are capable of doing. So that makes it potentially easier on whether or not we tend to keep people. I think the hardest part too is a lot of players sometimes view it as we don't like them. And it's like, no, we love you guys. At the end of the day, it's about production. So we're going to try to keep the best players that we have on our roster and kind of just figure out how that's going to flow later on down the road.
Lastly, Coach, Athletic Director Dwayne Peavy always talks about dreaming big within the department. From a softball specific perspective, how does this program dream big looking into next season?
Well, we want to implement a lot more technology. We want to implement a lot more team building. I think it's hard because this year's team building was all virtual. So we're trying to look at different systems that we can bring in from the outside to kind of help us just continue to push forward and bond a little bit more as our team. And then technology is the biggest key. I mean, I don't know if anybody's watching the World Series right now, but Florida State, they all wear the Whoop band, and it showed their data from their team in game of like their recovery numbers versus their strain numbers. And I'm like, I was fascinated by that. I don't know if I have that in my budget, but it's just something to think about of how can we continue to get our team the necessary equipment that they need to make sure that we are putting the best product out there every game.
Well, Tracy, thank you so much for keeping us updated with the program and joining us here on the Blue Demon Download.
Yeah, no problem.